Hello everyone, welcome to Anime No Me, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. Luffy managed to acquire a huge power-up through his Gear 5th transformation, managing to manipulate the environment around him and even managing to resist powerful attacks in ironic and really hilarious ways. The full potential of this power is still unknown because it's said that this awakening has unlimited ability. It just depends on the user's creativity. So this power really has no visible limit. As long as the user has an immense imagination and great creativity, it means that this power gives you the ability to manipulate reality itself. So in today's video, we're going to talk about the Gear 5th transformation, all of the powers the fruit of the Nika fruit could possess, and then we're going to talk about the possibility that Luffy's fruit is in fact the most powerful in existence in the world of One Piece. But before we dive into the video, if you're new to the channel or even if you've watched a bunch of our videos, we'd be absolutely honored if you'd leave us a like and even subscribe and maybe leave us a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out and it continues to motivate us to make more content. And if you'd like to help out the channel in a bigger way, consider sharing this video or another one of your favorites with a friend. Without further ado, let's get into the video. So my friends, the Nika fruit not only has a wide variety of attacks, but it also gives the user the ability to manipulate the environment around them in pretty much any way they want. And Luffy has demonstrated this ability several times already, manipulating the terrain around him and even manipulating his opponent's bodies. It's been said that the fruit of the Sun God has the unlimited ability to modify pretty much anything around it, even modifying the bodies of the people around it, allowing them to make cartoon-like expressions where the character's eyes pop out or form a star or anything else in a really funny way. Prior to obtaining Gear 5th, Luffy could just pretty much manipulate his own body. But now that he's attained this transformation, we're going to see multiple and more creative ways where he's going to modify the environment around him. And there's even the possibility that Luffy, once he fully gets this power under control, might be able to modify reality in that area any way he wishes, making it possible to modify the body of his opponents and even modify powers cast against him, making him practically invincible, something he pretty much is already in his Gear 5th transformation. We've observed his durability has taken a big increase. He's been able to take and tank several extremely powerful blows and still remain intact, with only maybe minor marks of him ever being hit. But Luffy still keeps fighting as if nothing happened. He just has this bigger grin on his face and the wider coloration. So far as we've observed, Luffy is only injured when he takes a slashing attack, causing his natural rubber resistance to become ineffective. But when the confrontation is from physical blows or with some kind of weapon that's more of like a blunt object rather than a slashing ability, such as a kanabo in Kaido's case, the strikes really become pretty ineffective against Luffy. Through the power that Luffy gained through his awakening, he was able to face Kaido, manage to resist all of his attacks, and even match the level of the strength of the strongest creature in the world. Through Gear 5th, Luffy was even able to withstand blows that had a really high temperature. For example, Kaido's Boro Breath, which already had the ability to completely destroy the top of a mountain and set the surrounding environment on fire. Luffy took several of those attacks, leaving his body with a thin layer of charring, looking a little singed. But soon after, Luffy just cleaned himself off and went right back to fighting as if nothing had happened. However, this doesn't mean he's completely immune to heat. His body is still susceptible to intense heat. For example, when Kaido transformed into his full fire dragon form, when Luffy was touching his body, he was still able to burn his hands as well as one of Onegashima's horns off. So after seeing it still had an effect, Luffy avoided touching Kaido as much as possible, demonstrating that that level of heat was indeed capable of burning his body completely if he touched it. So Luffy then opted to hit him through his haki at a long distance. Another power he's unlocked through this awakening is that Luffy is able to use the surroundings as a form of defense or offense, allowing him to further extend the range of his abilities. During his fight against Kaido, Luffy even managed to make the ground bounce one of Kaido's Boro Breath attacks right back to him, because he was able to impart the characteristics of rubber and even his more durability and malleability to the ground itself. And if Luffy can manipulate the ground and the environment, this also means that he can modify the body of other living things. And a small sample of that was seen when Kaido swallowed him, and Luffy managed to modify the stomach of the great dragon, causing Kaido's belly to make a huge ball and stretch out. Had this been done by anybody other than Luffy, Kaido's body would have been torn up from the inside out. But because Luffy turned his body into rubber, it allowed Kaido to stretch without suffering any permanent internal damage. And it's not just Luffy's strength and stamina and durability that's changed with this new transformation. His appearance has taken on quite different features. His hair and his clothes turn white, his eyes glow with white ring-shaped pupils, and white clouds, much like what we see in Gear 4th, float around his body and neck. But these clouds are much more thick and billowy than the steam that we see accompany him in Gear 4th. Luffy also emits a kind of white light from his body during attacks, which could possibly mean that he can emit a great light of a sun from his body. And his hair even resembles that of white solar flames, along with the curly, kind of much more thicker eyebrows that he has as well. In this most recent arc of Egghead Island, the Straw Hats and Bonnie, along with Vegapunk, are confronting CP0, and the Navy is due to be arriving on the island as well because they're going to Egghead to confront the Yonko's crew. Before everything kicked off, Lucci and CP0 were on their way and arrived in Egghead, along with Kaku and Stussy and some other agents, in a secret mission to assassinate Vegapunk and the rest of the scientists that would have been working with him. To aid in their infiltration and enter the island, Lucci brought a Seraphim Kuma with him, as he would be the perfect tool to enable CP0 to enter Egghead in a peaceful and non-aggressive way, because depending on how Vegapunk reacted, CP0 would have a way in, and then they might even be able to use Kuma against Vegapunk and the rest of the scientists. To look even less suspicious, Lucci and the CP0 agents went on a single boat to Egghead Island, and after being interrupted by some of the marine robot animals that were around the island, Lucci said that he was only on the island to return the Seraphim Kuma, and that he wanted to be able to come ashore so he could capture the pirate Bonnie, who was supposed to be on the island. This way, they could have peaceful access to the island, and it would make it a lot easier for them to murder Vegapunk and do it with less difficulty because they would be seen as allies just coming to drop off of Seraphim. However, they were denied access by Pythagoras and simply told them to drop the Seraphim off and leave, which made Rob Lucci suspect that Vegapunk already had suspicions about their mission. So Lucci next used the powers of Esper, and they sent them all to Egghead Island, coming ashore in a much more aggressive way and alerting everyone on the island that an invasion was taking place. Atlas arrives at the scene to fight Lucci, but she quickly took a hit from, causing her to be defeated quickly. But seeing this situation, Luffy got angry with Lucci, causing a long-awaited rematch from Eni's lobby. But during the early parts of this fight, Luffy didn't really show off any huge abilities from his fruit. It was only when Sentomaru appeared and was defeated by Lucci that Luffy started to take the fight seriously. Now, Luffy wasn't completely possessed by hatred, but he was considerably furious, and used several moves that he had already used in the previous confrontation against Lucci in Eni's lobby, causing some really nostalgic panels to be written by Oda. But during this new exchange, Lucci was not able to hit or land any strike that would be considered dangerous for Luffy, demonstrating to Lucci that Luffy and he were on very different planes in terms of power, even if they had both awakened their fruits and were using their awakened transformations. During the fight, Luffy demonstrated two interesting new abilities with his awakened fruit in the fight. The first one was when Luffy enlarged his head and tried to swallow Rob Lucci whole, causing only Luffy's head to grow large. Just as Lucci managed to dodge Luffy's mouth, the Straw Hat Boy bit down on a large bit of stone from the ground and spit the projectiles in Lucci's direction, causing him to have to dodge the projectiles. Now, although this wasn't a particularly powerful technique, it is still interesting because it demonstrates that Luffy can use his creativity to hit his opponents from a long distance without the need to expose himself all that much, thus reducing any danger of him being hit if he got caught off guard. In this same fight, Luffy used another interesting technique called the Gomu Gomu no Dawn Pistol, where Luffy punched the ground, causing the ground to become an extension of his own fist, allowing Luffy to reach his opponent through the environment and hit him from there. So as we can see, Luffy's fruit is not only incredibly interesting when he's in his Nika transformation, it enables Luffy to use all sorts of different techniques that match the situation, making him not only more versatile, but all the more powerful through that versatility. So Luffy is, little by little, demonstrating that he's gaining more control over reality, being able to change everything around him, where both physical objects and living beings are turned into rubber and changed from their original form. Now, obviously, this reality control is gonna have its limitations, where it's only able to transform or modify what makes sense based on its rubber element, which, even if that is a limitation, that's already more than enough to make this one of the most powerful devil fruits in existence. After all, the characteristics of rubber are malleable, giving it the ability to modify virtually anything Luffy can touch, becoming a versatile and easy to control material for Luffy, who already has a really creative and playful mind, allowing him to be able to create even more possibilities in the future using just his imagination. This makes Nika's power pretty much unstoppable, and it's possible that Luffy might even gain the ability to manipulate the powers and projectiles aimed at him, making him practically invincible to pretty much all sources of damage. So with all that said, my friends, we'd love to know what you think about it now. Do you think there's gonna be a limit to Luffy's Nika powers? I mean, obviously it might be an effective to what he can see or what he has around him, but how far do you think he might be able to take his powers? And do you think there's gonna be a drawback or limitation? Because we've already seen Luffy look pretty darn tired whenever he uses Gear 5th. Do you think it's a trade-off and a consequence, or just simply because he hasn't learned to fully use the powers yet? Let us know what you think about all that in the comments below. So as we wrap up our video, we'd like to thank you so much for watching the video, especially those of you who've stayed with us here to the very end. Make sure you comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to to see in future videos. And also, since you've made it this far, give us a like and hit that red subscribe button before you head out to take on the rest of your day. I hope to see you all in our next video, and let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.